So, how come that Battlefield 4 is such a great Battlefield game and it's still having good numbers even when it comes to players in the beginning here of 2025, considering that we're talking about a game that is soon to become 12 years old, since it was released back in October 2013? Well, the simple answer is that it's a good game overall, and players recognize that, and therefore continue to play the game, but it also attracts some new players in the FPS genre that wants to experience one of the OG Battlefield games, since there's at least on PC, which I'm playing, quite a few people still logging in playing BF4 on a regular basis. Now, my first feeling when playing BF4 again is that it feels good to be back into a shooter that has more basic movements and mechanics, meaning no supernatural running speed or no bunny hopping around corners and no butt sliding due to modern movement mechanics. Instead, focuses on the actual gunplay, which I've always liked in BF4, alongside with knowledge when it comes to the actual game mode you're playing, your role as a soldier depending on what class you're playing as, and also with time or overtime, I would say, some map knowledge. This suits me well, and I played the multiplayer once more with a smile on my face, trying out different game modes again, such as Rush, which is my favorite, has always been in Battlefield, but some crazy domination is going in here as well when it comes to Operation Locker, I think it's called, some TDM, and I guess you won't see so much Conquest in this video though, although that is maybe the most played and most characteristic Battlefield game mode available, when the big battle takes place on the ground, in the air, at sea, both with infantry and of course vehicles. Yes, the franchise was on its peak here, with games such as Bad Company 2, which I loved, BF3 leading up to BF4, and a bit later also BF1 in 2016. When it comes to the latest titles, I do hold both BF4 and BF1 pretty high. They have simply been my favorites, if you will, although I have to admit that BF5 managed to caught my interest and attention later in its life cycle, and has been a nice to come back to game once in a while also during last year, meaning 2024. So how about players then? How many are still playing Battlefield 4 now in the beginning here of a new year when I'm making this video? Well, if we first take a look into the Steam charts, we can see that there's been around 1.5k players on average a day playing BF4 via Steam. But since the game also has been out on EA Play, former Origin if you will, we'll take also a look into Active Player IO, since we then can see a total of players when it comes to PC, Xbox and PlayStation 4. Here it seems as there's been an average of 227k daily players, although we should take numbers like this with a grain of salt, but it shows in comparison to many other games that BF4 is still very much alive all these years later, and it has increased its player count even when we compare 2023 with 2024. So again, being a good game that is still being played alongside with some good sales here and there, where you've been able to buy many Battlefield titles for just a few dollars or euros. Maybe you have gotten that kind of deal as well. If that's the case, congratulations. Now, BF4 is still doing well here in the beginning of 2025. As a matter of fact, all three somewhat newer BF titles I've mentioned are still doing well. Battlefield 1 has almost 18k players on average a day according to Steam charts. Battlefield 5 is smashing it, since there's almost 36k players on average playing the game. Compare that to the latest title in the series, which is Battlefield 2042, that only has below 18k players on average a day according to the Steam charts, which is slightly less when it comes to the last 30 days compared to Battlefield 1 and of course also Battlefield 5. With those stats out of the way, it seems that you'll definitely be able to get into matches no matter what time of the day you're playing BF4, at least on PC. On console there might be a different thing, as with many other older games when looking for online matches, you are mostly better off if you're playing later in the afternoon or evening. But as with many games, there's definitely both good and bad things in a game, also in BF4. Especially depending on who you're asking, so I therefore also looked into some player reviews or feedback when it comes to Battlefield 4 on Steam, in order to see what other players has to say about Battlefield 4. Now let's start with some positive stuff. Greatest Battlefield of all time in my opinion. The gameplay is the best of all titles and the community is nice and helpful. But if you have only played Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, then Battlefield 4 will be a difficult game. But if you have played Battlefield 3 or COD, then it will just be a team-focused Call of Duty or modern Battlefield 3. The punk buster problem does not exist if you have the newest version of it, and the bugs aren't game breaking, although the hit reg is sometimes trash. When it comes to gameplay related things, a lot of different weapons which can be changed to fit your playstyle, good movement, almost no pay to win. You have the old class system, well designed maps. Can only recommend if you want a team focused Call of Duty or modern Battlefield 3, and if it's on sale, then why not just buy it if you like the above. I agree with a lot of things that this guy is saying. There was one thing though I was wondering, and you can fill in here what you think, of course. That's why I'm also making this video. I find it interesting with the discussion. But he says almost no pay to win. I haven't really thought about if there's any kind of pay to win element in a Battlefield game, especially BF4. But again, feel free to fill in. And of course, the old class system means a lot. It's kind of a definition thing, more or less, of a Battlefield game when it comes to the style of Battlefield. And unfortunately, yes, as he mentioned, the hit reg can sometimes be a bit so-so. With that said, let's throw in a player that has quite some negative feedback to share, although it doesn't really have to do with the actual game or gameplay. EA ruined the game, can't play BF4 or BF1 anymore. EA ruins everything they touch. Edit, delete and re-download the game. I think it's some leftover from Origin that EA doesn't like. Now, I'm gonna fill in here. I made a video years ago when it comes to my old Origin account, because it was created with an old email address that doesn't exist anymore. And long story short, I made several attempts to retrieve this old account because I had my original Battlefield 3, Bad Company 2 for that sake. I had Battlefield 4. This is a newer version that I bought just a few years ago. And I never got it back. I wasn't able to retrieve it. Maybe I should make another try now in 2025. I just lost my interest, or I didn't have the time to continue to try to reach out to the EA support. And who knows, maybe you've had similar experiences as well. Well, let me know in the comments. With that said, yes, for sure you can play the game using the EA launcher or buy it there if you will. I'm actually playing it through the EA launcher when making this video. However, if you get a good price on Steam as a PC gamer, I would actually buy it on Steam instead. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But the game has overall positive reviews and it is fun, definitely. I am happy that I went back playing some, because I have been missing these old days when it comes to a game that plays exactly like Battlefield 4. And when it comes to a comparison to newer shooters out there, well, as you know, there aren't so many Battlefield-alike games that we can kind of make a comparison with. However, Delta Force is out there. Is it better than Battlefield 4? No, it's not. Battlefield 4 is still the shit. If you want to get a game like this, definitely worth the money. So yes, Battlefield 4 is worth it here in the beginning of 2025. I think it's still, after all these years, a really good FPS experience overall. So with that said, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about Battlefield 4? Are you still playing, or is it something that you put in the trash can years ago? Fill in the comments. And take care. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. It helps me out here on YouTube. And yeah, see you in the next video. Have a beautiful day. Later.